The discussion. Hi, Natalie. So, would you mind just introduce and describe yourself, and then we'll kick off.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'm Natalie Woolman. I'm an executive producer at the space, and I'm a white woman with long, dark hair. And today I'm wearing a white shirt.
Thank you. So, Natalie, just to sort of kick us off, when there is so much content out there on the online platforms, why do you think artists are particularly important?
I think that's such a big question because digital platforms are where so much of our lives are playing out now, personal, social, political, global. So for me, that question's like asking why are artists important in society? But
Mm.
to try and answer that question with a specific lens on digital tools and platforms, I think there are three really big things that artists bring into the mix. The first is that great artists create things of ambition and beauty. So to see them take digital technology and use it to make works of art pushes the form, and makes us rethink what those things are for and what they can do with sometimes spectacular results. Just think of David Hockney's iPad paintings. The second is that artists, by their very nature, like to play, and that often means experimenting and testing boundaries. I hosted a panel last week about how artists are being innovative in how they use technology to capture performance works. And two of the artists on the panel had actually ended up working directly with developers of software that was already on the market to try and make the tech do more so they could achieve what they wanted, a sort of win-win for both parties. But that was all really born from that artistic urge to experiment and play with possibilities. Finally, thirdly, I would say great artists are independently minded and often free-spirited. They have a different perspective on the world that they bring to their audiences, and lots of them are interested in human behaviour. For me personally, that means they provide interesting, unexpected, often provocative commentary on how we interact with digital tools and technologies and make us consider our own habits. You only need to think about Black Mirror, the worldwide smash hit, and how it challenges audiences to think about how we interact with technology. And at the space, we've supported many artists who are fascinated by what it means to be a digital citizen and have invited their audiences to do the same. I'm thinking of artists like Javad Alipur, whose work has looked at the growth of online extremism, and a trio of artists, Francesca Panetta, Halsey Bergand, and Shahani Fernando, who last year created the compelling Uncanny Experience Vocalize, which asks us to consider where AI will take us. And that those provocations, I think, are incredibly important for audiences in the midst of all the other content out there.
Yeah, and I think we're going to put some links to some of those works in as well. So again, that's more for people to see. I get what I just thought about as you were speaking was I'm curious about the of our audience today. How many people are artists, or as their full-time work, or as part of what they do, and it will be interesting to hear other people's perspectives as well. Thank you. So what do you find sort of particularly and personally inspiring about how artists use digital to express themselves?
I think more than anything, just that how people choose to use digital, whatever that means, software, hardware, platforms, to express what they want to say. Technology has resulted in a massive and rapid growth in the tools available to artists to make their ideas into a reality, and simultaneously a massive and rapid growth in the ways they can share that with audiences. So, sort of two things have happened at the same time. The panel we have today is absolutely fantastic and going to speak to all of this much more eloquently than I can. But I wanted to give just one other example before we start. And it's a particularly extreme example because it's from the pandemic, when, of course, it was sort of digital or nothing. In 2020, we commissioned a choreographer called Corey Baker to make a short dance film called Swan Lake Bath Ballet for BBC platforms. It featured world-class ballet dancers from across the world and he had a world-class cinematographer to support him. But of course, everyone was stuck at home and no kit or crew was available. So what the cinematographer, whose name is Nicola Daly, did was she asked each of the dancers to download an app, Filmic Pro, onto their iPhones and put together a style guide for how they should shoot their part of the film themselves in their bathrooms at home on their own. She did recce's with them over Zoom when they showed her their homes, and she told them how to alter their smartphone settings to get the best out of their shots for the kind of look and feel that she and Corey wanted. The film was later remotely edited to stitch together these contributions into what was a very beautiful, quirky, moving short film. When it was finished, it was then distributed by the BBC on their social media platforms to a global audience who, of course, were in exactly the same position as all the dancers boxed in at home. And the beauty of that film, but also the sense of the frustration, the ridiculousness of the way we were all living at that time, encapsulated by these extraordinary dancers performing Swan Lake in their bathtubs, struck a chord with millions of people all the way across the world. But it wouldn't have been made without the digital tools available, and it wouldn't have met its audience without those digital platforms. But at the heart of it all was two artists, a choreographer with a vision, Corey, and a cinematographer with a real sense of art and artistry, Nicola. And that's what brought that to life. So the tools and platforms are there to be played with, but at the heart of creating something like that, and all the projects we're going to hear about today, the three projects are spectacular, is an artist with a vision that they want to share with their audiences.
Lovely. Thanks, Natalie. That feels like a really lovely introduction to DK, our first speaker. And when you're speaking about how the sort of wonders of digital and making beautiful work, because I think, in Interruption, DK's piece that we're focusing on this first time, it's just exactly that, isn't it? And I know you feel the same.
Yes, it's absolutely spectacular, and I would encourage everyone um, on the webinar to take a look at it. It's really arresting, just well, DK will describe it, but arresting, provocative, and gorgeous. It's gorgeous to look at.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And then I'm going to hand over to DK. So to start with, DK, will you describe and then introduce yourself? And then we'll kind of go into sort of start by exploring some of the main themes of your work and what's behind it.
Yes, thanks so much, guys, for saying that. I really appreciate your views on the film. And it's nice when people just appreciate it and see the vision. I'm DK, I'm a director, movement director, multidisciplinary performer, artist, and I guess my work lives across theatre, film, dance, and festivals. I'm also the founder of Twerk and Vibe, and I run fitness classes and events focused on booty and waistline movement. In my work, I'm really interested in how just movement can carry memory, culture, and also possibilities, especially cultural movement. And I'm drawn to worlds that sit around surrealism and culture, identity, futurism, and I guess where ancestral places can also meet the present, and where imagination, most importantly, can take us to just new universes and possibilities, especially when it comes to work here, because I'm based in London, and work-wise, often there's a limit to what you get to see of yourself, especially as a Black woman and as a Black artist. So I'm really interested in the imagination and how futurism can really help us see things differently and connect to people in ways that we wouldn't normally do. So yeah.
This is a bit of an aside, but I'm thinking when I listen to you speaking about, imagination and futurism and things, it feels really sort of positive and optimistic.
Yeah.
It's a joy. It's a joy to hear.
Yeah, because I think that's fun for me. I guess it's fun being able to just imagine, and that's the whole thing. I think when you're a kid and you get into these creative industries, you don't really see the business side of it. You're attracted to making worlds and storytelling. and that liberation that that can give you from what is happening in your reality at the moment and how it can connect you to deeper things and the value of what's really important underneath it all. So.
Yeah. Do you want to just sort of carry on in that vein and sort of tell us about, you're talking about the imagination and creating and making worlds, and you've talked about Vulgar Women as a universe that you've created. So I wonder if you can sort of introduce us. So this is by way of introducing the piece that we're going to talk about. It's part of a bigger world that DK has been imagining for some time. Do you want to sort of introduce Vulgar Women and then Interruption, and then we'll go on from there?
Yes, so Vulgar Women, a Twerk Symphony is a creative universe that I have been working on, and it's an evolving universe around different creative projects around film, stage work, installation, and music, and things that will continue to come out, all exploring around shame versus twerking. And when I say twerking, I mean booty movement. So that's movement around hips, waistline, and all of these movements have such origin and history across African countries. Like there are too many across the board, and in every single so far we found every single African country you will find there is some sort of hip-based movement, and where we have gone throughout the world, the diaspora, you would also see that that has moved, whether we're looking at Brazil or whether we're looking at America, and what people mainly know as twerking now in hip-hop culture from there, but it's dancehall as well, it's soca, and it's this thing that has traveled regardless. And there's history there, there's importance there. And I think once we've gone into different spaces outside of our culture, there's a huge shame that has come along with it, especially with the storytelling around it coming from one gaze. And having taught these styles across 10 years now, there's just so much more there. And it was important for me and the women that I guess support what I've done and continually come to classes. They were begging me to do something in my theatre world and my stage world around the deeper meaning of twerk and movement. And this is kind of a universe that came around because I realized that so many women, even when they did partake in it, had shame around it. And we all had different stories. And I was like, there is something here that needs to be seen and explored in a way where people can see the deeper meaning and where we can be in control of telling our own stories about our own culture. So that's what the universe essentially explores.
That's the universe. And then do you want to just explain a bit about, introduce us to Interruption as a film, as a digital piece?
Yeah, so Interruption is the first installment from this creative universe, and it's a surreal piece. It's quite dark and it explores quite a few of the things that are the key elements of Vulgar Women universe, which is looking at twerk movement, of course, booty movement, but it's also looking at classical music and placing things where you don't expect things to be together and what happens in that new world, what new myths do you create, as well as the grotesque and horror, which explores just the research, a lot of real research, and you'll see it when you watch the film, a lot of words and things that have been said, and I guess violence spoken out and of people or women who partake in booty movement. And I wanted to use the grotesque and horror to really reflect what that can feel like and how that can trap you, a person, and a body in a space. And yeah, I'd say I don't want to give too much because I want people to watch the film.
Watch it. Well, and that's lovely.
Yeah, I'd say watch it and experience it and see what it feels like.
Oh, yeah. And maybe if we could talk a bit more about the sort of process of making it and some of the ways you did that, that will really, I don't know. Well, we'll do that, and then people get to see it and sort of think, oh yeah, of course. So a lot of when you're speaking, you talk a lot about kind of bringing things together, about sort of contrast and unexpected, things that are happening by bringing things together. And I'm sort of thinking about your filmmaking process and what were the ways in which you managed to do that? Sort of working with different people, because obviously if you're working on a film, it's very different to creating a live performance. What were the sort of the factors of filmmaking and those digital sort of tools or approaches that you use that helped you to tell your story?
So I would say I didn't go to film school, so I feel like I've always felt like I'm not a professional filmmaker. I just go by feeling and instinct. is how I would say with myself when it comes to my filmmaking. With this process, I use so much Canva. Canva is my best friend.
Canva is your best friend.
Canva is my best friend because it really just helps me to place kind of like you would when you were in school and you'd have magazines and you'd have to put a collage down and put it down that way. I just do that digitally, a lot of my ideas. I'm a lot about instinct and feeling. So most times what I will do to convey what I need is I just really put down, you would say, I guess it's a pitch, but it's more so just I get moods, colors, images of kind of what I'm trying to express in the film, as well as so much detail for every department. So they know this is what I'm thinking about this is what I'm thinking about that, but I'm not sure. What do you think? And collaboration is a big part of what I believe in my process. I'm so specific with how I collaborate with people because I really believe we all have our own purpose and there's things you will see that I may never ever see. So as long as I can place as much of my feeling and my ideas on paper, together we will get to the right vision. So I think Canva is a big thing I use a lot. I also, as a movement artist and dancer, we use cameras all the time now. We use cameras a
Do
lot.
you?
Yeah, in order to just go over things. And sometimes when you're making choreography, you might freestyle, and then you look back over the freestyle and go, okay, maybe I want to pick these elements for the choreography, what worked, what didn't work. So that also helps because you can also get different frames from rehearsal. You can put that into Canva as well. Um, so I think since I would say even when I was a kid, I remember I got my mum to get me a video camera. I begged for one in year 11, and I was able to kind of document different processes and also force my friends to do like really trash YouTube shows, which I never posted online. But I think the idea of a camera has actually been quite useful for a long time, even if it's not for film and you're just making it from other creative um, devices or things that you're doing. So I think Canva, video cameras, I use a lot digitally, just in regards to writing. As I'm a writer, but I like putting things on paper. I think maybe this also comes down to my neurodivergency. But I will write a lot in regards to what I feel so that people can see that and then guide me the right way as well. And then we collaborate.
Mhm. That's really interesting. And you sort of like you're talking a lot about kind of mood and feeling, and your use of language is really powerful about that, isn't it? Sort of just going back to what you were talking about, you know, one of the reasons that the space, well, part of the commissioning of your work was that the pitch document that you created was outstanding, and people still talk about it within the organization as a fantastic example. And that thing of sort of the ability to be able to sort of present your world to other people in a way that immediately grabs them. That's fantastic, isn't it? So I've got loads of questions to ask you a bit more about the sort of the collaboration. How do you, in a situation like this, your vision is obviously absolutely clear in your mind, but you're working with other people who, I don't know, who bring another skill to help you. How do you keep how do you sort of keep your vision while still taking on the impact of somebody else who might say to you, oh, no, I know from experience that if we shoot this way or that way, it'll be better. How do you sort of manage that process yourself?
I'd say the first thing is, as much as you can, of course, work with people that you're aligned in vision to an extent, because it's nice to kind of be thrown things that you may not consider. But when I say aligned in vision, as in they support your vision, that they want to support what you have in mind. Sometimes great people are available. I think even with Interruption, I ended up working with a new filmmaker, Will, and that was because of lines didn't work out in regards to calendar and things like that. And at first, it was really, daunting. Because when you've got a commission, you want to do it, you've got all these ideas, you're like, oh my gosh, and you just hope and um, pray and try to put systems. I think something that's really important is having as many conversations, I would say, as you can if you're working with someone new. Have as many conversations you can about how they view the world that you're trying to make, but also how they view their own artistic world, because that will help you to really understand if you align. It's kind of like a relationship, right? Most of us, sometimes it crashes because we don't do enough due diligence, or sometimes you do and people surprise you. That's life. Um, but I think getting to know them as much as possible can help. And then if something does happen, I think the biggest thing is having a conversation where you really can be honest with each other, where you feel like you're starting to lose or go on different paths when it comes to that. I think what I try to do as much as possible is see where, yes, I can achieve the vision that I want, but sometimes I have to check myself as well and go like, if this alters a little bit, like how much does it change the overall vision? And actually, maybe it will give you something that you never considered. And sometimes you have to be okay to be like, okay, let me try this. And then you can discover really great things through that. But if you've got enough time to, I 100% would say if you've got enough time and enough budget to do like a practice run, especially when it comes to movement and film,
Yeah.
do as many as possible because that will help you figure out what the pathway is going to look like on screen, and help you both be able to sit down and go, okay, yeah, yes, no, and figure it out. It's everything. It's like life. You just have to figure it out along the way and be a little bit open where you can.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is about that. Natalie said it as well, and it's sort of like playfulness, trying things out,
Mm.
finding out what people can bring that you didn't expect. All important. So, just one more question, and then I'm going to ask Peter to join. You'll be away and have a little rest, and then Peter will join us. But so the last question was just about sort of that the end of the filmmaking process, and kind of I wonder because when people watch Interruption, they'll see the sort of the connections, the movement, the way that you go between scenes and so on. I wondered whether you use any kind of fancy digital editing tricks, or whether is there anything in that? Did it allow you to do things that you might not have been able to do otherwise?
I think, funny enough, I remember when I wanted to, like the sample that I sent, I really wanted to have more effects in there.
Oh
But
yeah,
that was one thing that Will was like, no. He was like, we need to keep it clean. And I actually kind of, at first I was like, but I actually really loved his sentiments about that. I think outside of, I guess, some of the words that come on screen, um, there wasn't as much SFX, I guess, consistently used. However, I think the grading, there's something about the grading and how Peter really graded it, that kind of gives this dark world.
it is.
And even though it was moody, it wasn't as dark. And I think he was able to do some really great stuff with the lighting that
Mm.
helped really shift the mood in different places and effects in that way, which I think really lent itself well. Which of course you won't be able to do that on stage, but I guess sometimes you can with lighting. Like I feel like I'm stage first and then film. Because I just love anything can happen on stage. And I love that issue
Yeah,
each night. Um,
that's
you
another whole
know.
conversation, isn't it? But once it's made, it's made, isn't it? Like, so
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to be able to let go, which it teaches you to do once you've made a film. And I think the more I've made films, the more I've realized, okay, do you know what? You can accept that as a place and time for where you were at that time.
yeah,
And that's okay, and you can look back on it with good memories and you can continually like improve but yeah, I look back and I even films where I was like, oh, maybe I didn't like this or this didn't turn out or certain things didn't turn out completely how I wanted it to. I still love them for what they are and what they
yeah.
were as well. So yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll leave that there. If anybody's got any questions for DK, please add them into the chat and we can come back and pick them all up later. Thank you ever so much, DK. I'm going to invite Peter to join us now. And we'll see you a bit later on. Brilliant. Thank you. Hiya. Hello, Peter.
Hi,
Will
hiya, how you
you
doing?
very well, thank you. Will you introduce yourself and describe yourself and then we'll kind of kick into the
Oh,
questions?
describe what I look like.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
so I'm a white, middle-aged bloke with a green sweatshirt on and glasses and blonde receding hair. And we've just moved into a new office. And when I sat down, it was very boring that what was behind me was white. So I've just quickly stuck up some interesting prints behind me to make myself look more arty.
Oh, I hope they're digital prints.
No, they're well, it's funny. They're a mix, those
Ah,
things. Yeah,
oh
that's
yes.
kind of interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, that's one of the things we'll get to, is thinking
It
about how
might be,
you're
yeah.
sort of the handcrafting and how
Yeah,
do you,
yeah.
well, maybe that's, how do you do that? How do you, your work is, well, you work partly as an animator and a filmmaker. You tell us about yourself and then we'll
Yeah,
go
so
on
I
to,
run an arts organization and a production company, which is called My Pockets. We've been going a long time, sort of more than 20 years, really. And we make all kinds of things. So really, I'm a filmmaker, and we make, at the moment we make loads of animations. In the past, we've made documentaries and things with
mm,
puppets and kind of fiction films, all kinds of things. We also run a music project, screen printing projects. We do lots of things across a sort of different art forms. But at the kind of root of all of it is working with people to get them to kind of like talk about whatever's happening in their lives and tell their stories and to sort of, and
mm.
that's what connects everything. So we hop around in what we're doing, but there's always an element of getting people to talk to us and help us to make stuff.
Yeah. And so I mean, this is really, we're talking about the kind of the digital parts of the process, but how do you get that kind of authenticity and the sort of loveliness of an individual person's ideas and drawing,
Yeah.
whatever? How do you make those into something
Well, I think it's funny in the
digital?
context of this. I like when I first started making films, it was shot on film. Films were shot on film. So I
Yeah.
was sort of I went to film school and I went as a writer, and the cost of the film going through the camera, it was like every time you turn the camera on, it's like, 25 quid, another 25 quid, 20. I was like skin, always skin. And so I couldn't really make films. I didn't make any films because I just couldn't understand how anybody could afford just to, book the camera out of the thing and like run the film through the camera. It felt very sort of, yeah, it was sort of impossible. And then so I sort of struggled in that time. And then when things went digital, the digital technology started to come in, it became cheap. It was suddenly cheap to make films. And at that time there was funding around or interest in kind of using that to work with young people to make films. And so I started to do that, and what people would do, it was a fund called First Light, and then it became Into Film, which is still going, and a lot of people, and we started like this. We're making like zombie movies with teenagers. So all the teenagers have come along, and they all basically want to make Shaun of the Dead or Star Wars or whatever. And so they start doing that, and then we realized that actually it was more interesting to find young people that didn't really want to make a film, weren't interested in making a film, but had something going on in their lives that they would benefit from articulating or wanted to articulate. So we started to work with them, and really from that moment, we've never stopped. So we've worked in all kinds of different places with all kinds of different people. What I think about doing that is that when you invite people into a creative process to sort of collaborate with you, and they're not creatives or don't see themselves as being artistic or having artistic skills, you get this sort of excitement that they're doing stuff, and also that they bring a kind of humor to it. They bring a sort of they just bring their human side to things, and most of the time people aren't really asked to talk about themselves, to talk about their life experiences, the things that have happened to them, and to turn that into something. And so it's a really wonderful thing to be involved in. I love it.
So, and we were going to talk particularly about leaf number 3, which I'll get you to explain a little bit about it, but it's kind of your first foray of working in 3D
Yeah,
rather than
VR.
in VR. That's right. So can you sort of give us a bit of an outline about the project and what leaf number 3 is? Because obviously it fits in very much. It's all about the sort of human side and working with people and their ideas. And then
Yeah.
I'll get you to sort of talk about the sort of nuts and bolts of the
How we do it.
learning to use this a new technology in your work.
Yeah, so the space got in touch with us, and we were working with the space and Inspire, who were the kind of part of the library service, or are the library service
In
in
Nottinghamshire.
Nottinghamshire,
Right.
and they wanted to make a film about sort of Sherwood Forest, about trees, which I find quite difficult. Like I find it quite hard doing things about trees and nature and stuff. It's kind of like I like trees, obviously, but I don't really know what to kind of like say about them other than that they're good, you know. And so we started to we were sort of working on that, and then I suppose at the time, like maybe lots of us feel. I feel a bit sort of helpless, a bit small, a bit insignificant, a bit like the world is just kind of like tearing through, like a sort of wild ride. That I have no kind of like control over. And I sort of was looking at a tree and sort of thought, well, you can see a tree in two ways. There's sort of the leaves, and then the detail of the tree of all the leaves, and then you can be away from it and see a tree as a blob, as a sort of green blob. And that in a way, I sort of feel like I'm looking at the green blob, but actually like I'm a leaf. And so we sort of I had that idea, and then we kind of developed that into a sort of story. And then we then went to kind of work in Nottingham in or Nottinghamshire with different libraries, different community groups, different people. We kind of like got people to draw, make zines, and kind of like and the zines were really about them talking about themselves and what made them different, what made them individuals, what was the story of their life, what was their, and at the end of that process, everybody made one leaf that was them, so that was kind of they found the one thing that was them, and then we made a film that was really all about all these leaves being individual people, individual characters that were based from those workshops.
So I was just going to say that Angela's put a link into this. So there's a 2D version of it available on YouTube, so you can watch it that way. But then we were going to talk about, so for you, you're creating this to go on a VR headset, knowing that it's going to be watched so that's one person at a time is going to watch this, experience it, I suppose, rather than watch. And it's all quite local and very much about the people around in Nottinghamshire and about Sherwood Forest. So just sort of what was that experience like for you? That thinking what I'm going to make this in VR, and were you thinking about the audience at the same time as you were thinking about the people you were working with to create the stories?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking, there's this, you put this headset on and then you're kind of like in this, you're looking around, you can see everything around you. You sort of realize, oh, that's kind of fun, that you're sort of in something that you can look around. Then you sort of think, well, how can you tell the story? Like, I think a story, you have to be directing people's attention to different details. So, in order to tell a story, whereas a kind of experience is, you don't have to do that. If you're just going to you're going to experience what it was like to be, I don't know, in kind of the Abbey Road when the Beatles were recording. You can just sit there and just kind of watch that happen. But a story, you need the sort of, you need the steps of it. So we had to figure out how to kind of direct people's attention to different things, which we did by moving things a little bit, or just kind of like, sounds played a part in that. So it was a bit of figuring that out. I think it was sort of just. What happened was that what was exciting about it, I think, was you've got this tree, you've got these leaves who are all people, and it was possible to put somebody, the viewer, into that tree and be surrounded by the leaves. And so that's kind of like that's different to sort of sitting back and watching something on a screen on a TV or cinema or on a laptop or a phone, because you're in the tree with the other leaves, and there's a kind of power in that which you don't get, and you're sacrificing something. You sacrifice a bit of control over what people are looking at, but you gain a kind of something new, which is people being in the tree.
Did you thought about that before you even started? I mean, or was it as you were going through the process of making? Did this occur to you? I mean,
it's the process. It's during the process, and most of our process is like that. Like most of the time, we don't start with an idea of what we're doing, and that's partly why we're successful, I think, at pulling people into our process, because there's no sense of, oh, this is like a predetermined thing and I'm just ticking some boxes. Anybody in any point when we're making things with people can say something or draw something or whatever, that takes the project off in a different direction. So I think it became apparent maybe sort of during the workshops, where you sort of go, you think, like, I would be sat you know, in a kind of round some tables, there might be like, I don't know, 15 people there all drawing, talking about their lives. And then you sort of go, oh, you know, this is like quite a powerful thing, seeing these people making their leaves. And then that then you're trying to that feeling that I have there, I'm then trying to translate into the experience of the project, you know, of being in the VR headset.
You're sort of really echoing what you're using the word feeling, and DK talks a lot about mood, but it's that, isn't it? It's sort of like having your idea being so strong about what it is you want to give to people.
Yeah, I think for me, films and really, I mean, for me, any kind of art, really, I want to feel something. I don't want it to be intellectual for me or to be just something that's explaining something to me. I want to feel something. And so I'm always gunning for that. We're always trying to make people cry or laugh or whatever, you know. And when we screen films, I'm always looking at when we screen them to an audience, particularly the first time, I always like to sit like to the side and watch people see when they smile or if they lean in or whatever. It's really important to me that people feel something.
Thank you. Thank you. Just one other question really, which is about sort of the process for you of working in the new format of VR. What did you learn, or, you know, if you reflect on that, doing that, what did you learn along the way?
Yeah, so I think that with new technology, with learning something new, it's really important to kind of do it in a kind of bite-sized way. So I didn't start by thinking, right, I'm going to learn everything there is to learn about VR. I just sort of start by going, okay, oh look, you can do that. So that means we've got to now learn how you put a leaf there. And then and we got to learn how you direct the attention to that. So we're learning in the steps of it, and we're based and I suppose there's that learning is coming from a foundation of knowing how to tell a story, knowing how to animate something. So we've got those skills already, but those skills have also been learned in that way. So, you know, we use After Effects and Photoshop and things like that all the time. But my knowledge of those things is just the things that I need to know. I haven't learned everything about them. I've just learned the bits that, you know, that I need to know. And I learn new things all the time, but just when I need to learn them, you know. So I think it's kind of, it can feel if you start by going, oh my God, there's this new form. I think it's really overwhelming, and you just lose sight of what you're actually trying to do, which is tell a story or communicate something to people. And the learning on it is a kind of just, you know, you're just sort of sticking it on like Lego bricks as you go along. By the end of it, you've built a little house.
Okay, thank you very much. Pete, I'm just going to see if there's any particular questions for you. And again, people can they might have a chance to watch the 2D version of.
Yeah, you have to imagine when you're watching the 2D version, you've got to imagine that it's around you.
And that you can look.
Yeah.
Okay, fab. And when we're going to hear from Ray next, but then we'll come back after the break and sort of explore a bit more about your kind of the creative process, the whole thing of playfulness and all of that. We'll come back to that later on. So for now, thank you very much for a very lovely introduction. Brilliant. Okay, see you later. Thank you. And then we'll hear from Ray. So just to sort of flag, after Ray, we'll have a short screen break, and then we'll go into the kind of questions with the whole audience. So, Ray, would you describe yourself and introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of kick right into the questions.
Sure. My name is Ray Jacobs. I'm a 62-year-old man with light brown, greying hair and blue eyes.
And do you want to introduce your work? Just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, sure. The focus of my digital work is working with a group called Arty Party. They're members and they're artists. And they are people with learning disabilities and or who are neurodiverse. And this is a group of there's 10 of us that meet every week. We hone our movement and our acting skills, and together we explore our lives and the stories in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to talk specifically about the recent film that you've made called Our Circle in the Storm, aren't we? Do you want to just introduce that paint a picture of the film, and then we'll kind of go into more detail about it?
Well, I'll start with the film's birth because it just
Oh
helps.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
at the beginning of a session, the 10 of us spend quite a while just sharing what's going on in our lives, which is often the starting place for a lot of our films. And one of our actors, Eve, had gone through a climate emergency. Her home was flooded. She had to leave her home. So every week there was updates on how she was feeling, how long it would be before she got back home. So that really brought climate change like home to the studio. And we work in a beautiful building with big windows. And during a session, I saw Eve doing a very beautiful tender duet in front of the window. And on this day, there was a big storm happening behind her. And it felt like that moment really encapsulated not only Eve's story, but how we are as a group, in that we have all these things going on in the world and our lives, but we come together, to work very connected and tenderly.
Yeah.
So we started talking about climate change as a group, even just literally sharing the globe with each other and talking about how we felt the world was getting on. And I kept coming back to that moment of that duet in front of the window and felt there was something really filmic that we could make with that.
Yeah. Something really filmic. Yeah. Go on, say more.
So what I wanted to show, the essence of our circle in the storm, was showing a group of people that were very connected inside while all this was going on outside, and that a balance between strength and vulnerability. And from there, and from what I do with the group then, is explain ideas. We try out lots of things in the studio. We watch each other through mobile phone footage of creating a story that gave that a narrative as well, which is there in our circle in the storm.
So can you sort of pick up on some of the ways that the thinking about the process of making the film? When we spoke before, I was very struck by when we were talking about what does digital mean to you, that you were very much about thinking about how you would use it, or how you use it to sort of facilitate other people, and what it offers to your actors and to your group. And I wonder if you could sort of pick up on some of the things that you, in the course of the filmmaking or the digital process, what are some of the ways in which you were able to sort of facilitate for other people or with other people?
Okay. I mean, the amazing thing about making film is that we can make anything happen.
Yeah.
And performers see themselves like as part of that picture. I'll just mention another little film just to help say that.
Yeah.
We've got a film called The Secret Life of Tom Lightfoot. We have a performer called Graham Busby, who, when he first came to us, suffered a lot from anxiety. And I found it hard being part of the group. And one session he came in and he had a plaster on his chest. And I asked him what that was about. And he said that his doctor told him that there was something wrong with his heart. And yet this same person who's quite nervous really comes to life on the dance floor. And a lot of people would say he dances like a bird. So I had this feeling of an idea of lots of birds could come out of Graham's chest. So as part of that filming, Graham got to work with real live starlings who were trained on making that journey as part of the filming. So Graham could see the relationship with the birds. He could see himself dancing beautifully on screen. And then be at festivals and online film festivals talking about what it meant to him. Yeah.
You're saying about he was able to dance. So you used a green screen technology to allow him to dance with the birds.
There's some intimate moments with the birds where he talks to the birds, and also the birds pour out of his heart in the film. And so there were two birds, 17-year-old starlings, who were trained film stars, and he got to hold them. And in the Green Screen studio, they had to make lots of journeys. So eventually we could show lots of starlings. Yes.
It's
And
amazing, isn't it?
And there's a moment in one of our films where two of our performers who are in a long-term relationship, but because of their learning disability, don't get to spend much time together. In one film, they're in a posh limousine, snogging in the back seat.
Lovely. So these the things you talked about as sort of gifts to people that you're able to, you said you can make anything happen.
Yeah, and if it's a gift to them, I guess as filmmakers, anything that really reverberates for yourself or your performers, you have to assume that that's happening for the audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing we've sort of talked about before was the idea that using digital allowed people to sort of refine their performance and, really be able to bring what they wanted to the piece.
So I guess so we try and film it as accessibly as possible to give people lots of time and lots of takes to get things just right. So they have a chance to give things a lot of takes, even something simple like holding a hand, until it feels right. And then also we work with a big monitor on set, so they can also come and tell the difference and see the difference between a take that feels really right and one which isn't so right.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? And is your process, do you think I want this thing to happen and then work out how you're going to do it? Or is it because you've got experience in filmmaking, you know exactly what's possible?
I'm sure this will resonate for most filmmakers in that, there's a strong idea that you feel really has to be made. It's got to be there to then go through that journey. But then the journey of collaborating with the performers shapes and changes. So the finished product, has been on a journey, and in some ways is quite different, but also still holds the heart of what you was looking for.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think that idea of having, being so committed to your idea, it's nothing new, is it? And it's kind of obvious, but it's what drives you as artists, and I suppose that's what's enabled you all to make such lovely work.
Yes, and
true to yourselves and your community.
And I get, and sort of like, the filmmaking is a really amazing vessel for showing a part of our work. There's a lot that we spend in our days together on Fridays that are there and gone. There might be some things that we just share in the studio with families and friends. But the longevity of the work is really important. So often at film festivals, we're sharing 7 or 8 films that might span 10 years. And it's the message of them films combined that can obviously that tell a story as well.
Thank you. I think we'll pick up after the break. We're going to talk about kind of, how you reach audiences and so forth. And so we'll speak a little bit more about film festivals after that. But I think for now, thank you so much, Ray, for that introduction to Our Circle in the Storm. And again, we've got the link. It's on the Icono TV link where it's available, so people can watch it there. It's another very beautiful film that I hope you'll all enjoy. What Eilish is asking is, how did you find the communities to participate in your projects, as we call them, or films? Was it people that were already known to you, or do you go out and find new participants? So just a quick answer, because I think you will have 3 different experiences. So DK, can I start with you? And you'll just, how did you find the people that you worked with?
Yeah, some people were some colleagues I've worked with previously, and then some other people I found through close networks and recommendations and putting some stuff out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And I do remember when we spoke before the webinar, we were laughing about the idea that, you know, you kind of, when people work with their known colleagues, it's so frustrating for people trying to get into it. But when you're working, that thing of having some trust is also, so it's a real conundrum, isn't there? Do you work with the people you trust, or are you open to sort of newness?
Mm. Oh, 100%. And I think I used to feel that way as well. And then after a few years in the industry, I started to understand why, because trust is so important when doing creativity and things like this. So I think it's trying to find that balance of where you can look for new people and get people in, but also making sure you can trust people for especially those core roles.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pete, what about you? How do you find the communities that you work with?
Yeah, so we almost always have like a partner organization who will be the people that connect us to the groups. So that will be a youth service, it could be kind of NHS, could be kind of whatever. Yeah, there's loads of different, and so we will approach the organizations that are working with people rather than the people directly themselves. On leaf number 3, that's the library service. So the library service had connections to groups that met in libraries all around Nottinghamshire, and then we meet them like that.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ray, how do you find the people that you work with?
Okay, so within Arty Party, I have a core group of actors that I work with weekly, but they have a membership of over 100 artists with learning disabilities. So also we try and bring in people from other parts of the organisation. And also in terms of kind of creative team, like director of photography, there are people that I work with quite regularly who I feel we can like share similar visions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So a little bit like DK saying, you're sort of working with people, the trust with people you know and work with. Smashing. Ray, I'm going to carry on with you if that's all right. I just wanted to pick up on that point about we're talking about film festivals, and I wanted to ask you a sort of a wider question. So with our Circle in the Storm, you know, you can see the sort of pattern of distribution of the work. It's been at different times you've had screenings. It's been made available via various sort of Facebook, other organisations. You've obviously it's partnered with other organisations, and it's also available on Icono TV. And then we've also talked about sort of attending film festivals. And I'm wondering, and taking part in film festivals, do you think, you know, when you're making a film, are you thinking about the platform it's going to go on and the audience who might see it, who are not part of your immediate community? Are they part of it? How do you think about them when you're making the work? Do you?
In them really early decisions of like, yes, we're going to do this, it kind of feels, again, a resonance on a lot of levels. Like I instantly felt that we could be reaching out to people that are interested in the environment. We can be reaching out to people with disabilities. We can be reaching out to a dance audience. And that really boosted the confidence in this is something that's going to be rewarding at the end. Yes.
Yeah. For you, and is it also for the art actors and your participants?
Yes, and also, you know, a great thing about, say, we regularly go to the Oscar Bright Film Festival in Brighton.
Oh, yeah.
A big group of us will go along for a few days. And yes, there's a buzz of sometimes showing your own work, but our participants and actors and performers and team get so much from watching other work about other people's, disabled people's lives as well.
Yeah. Which goes back to what you were saying about sort of the body of work and it having, you know, things that have been made in the past, you can kind of come back and show those and see them all again.
Yeah, and also somebody might see like a more biopic piece of work by someone and actually be really influenced by it and then want to make their own work, or, you know, after being inspired. Yeah.
And I think you also talked to me about, we sort of talking about film festivals and that kind of when they're online, how that can, you know, you've been speaking about working in a really accessible approach, how people being online attendance at film festivals has also allowed the people, some of your community people you work with, to kind of feel really confident in taking part in film festival Q&As and so on.
Yeah, I think there's two elements I wanted to say. Sometimes film festivals can feel like sometimes they're a long way away, and people are always saying, yes, but how can I watch the film? So it's really good to be able to signpost people to online festivals because they're open to everybody. And also, particularly for my performers with learning disabilities, they need a good build up to actually appearing online. So they need to meet people like yourself, get to know the kind of questions, and so they feel at home, kind of in the room, in the online room. Because it's really important that it's a positive experience and that they feel confident to talk about it.
Thank you. I'm going to ask DK to join us again now, because I'm sort of going back and asking about audiences. Do you, much like the question I asked Ray, do you think about the audience and who might be out there when you're making the work? And are you thinking about what platforms you're going to distribute your work on, where it's going to be when it's finished? Is that part of your process?
Yeah, I think depending on the project, because I'm working in different mediums, whether it's film or dance stage or a festival, I think they all deserve some kind of thought, but in different ways.
Oh yeah.
For the film in particular, I think for Interruption, I always think instinctively about the storytelling first and what that is. And I think potentially along the way, I think it's part of what I do, especially because of the work I create. Part of that is wanting it to resonate with the people it's about for, and just people in general. But I think it depends. It just depends. But I tend to think more about being true to what it is, and then thinking about it later. A bit more thinking about it later in that kind of refining process.
Yeah. And in terms of responses to Interruption, has the fact that it's been sort of available digitally and it continues to be, it's there on your website, has it brought a new audience to you? Are you aware of that at all? People finding it and then finding your work that way around?
I think it's been interesting because people can leave comments, and seeing comments from people that I don't know and going, oh, I wonder how it came across to them. And it's been really lovely to see that and to think that, okay, so someone has seen this, and some of the official selections as well. I've been reached out to people who've seen it after seeing it maybe in Portugal or something and going, oh, reaching out, which has been really nice and definitely brought different audiences. So yeah.
Has it? So it's been playing out and selected for various film festivals.
Yes.
Not just in the UK, but
not just in the UK, but
3 or 4, haven't you?
Yes, so that's been really nice. And I did get a message randomly from Instagram from someone in France who was like, I saw it and I shared it with my students, and I was just like, how? But she actually follows the Twerk and Vibe page, my twerk classes. So through that, there's been people that have been finding it. So yeah, that's been really nice.
So all kinds of strange and unexpected avenues and sort of bringing you back to the work. Thank you for that. And again, so that I'm going to get Pete to come back, and I've got a question for Pete, and I'm just wondering if anybody else has got any questions from the audience. So we've spoken a bit about audience, and I asked you already about what's it like creating something for this sort of hyper local people, one person at a time watching in VR. So I was sort of going to move on and think about creativity and playfulness. We've all sort of spoken about this and ideas and bringing your ideas to life, but you also, I have the sense from you that you're really keen to just play and mess with things and try stuff out. And can you sort of picking up on that again, the way you approach digital tech and how you use it in your work? So, I mean, one of the things you talked to me about was the getting a hand scanner. I mean, I think we're talking about you sort of the playfulness of digital. How do you use it creatively?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that's great about it is there are all these like tools that enable you to do things. And I suppose I'm always looking for things that are fun and quick and kind of like people can pick up really quickly and then make something. So I think the iPad has loads of things on there where you can make bits of music, you can make stop motion animations, you can film things, edit things, you can, like do all sorts on it. I have a little scanner that you sort of you can hold in your hand and you just drag it down and it scans stuff. And so we've just been doing a project recently with young dads, and that they love that, like going out into the street and scanning bits of like graffiti or bits of ripped up kind of stickers and posters and stuff, and then they come back and then it's theirs, they've captured that, they've found that thing. And so it's interesting. The handheld scanner is really interesting because it is like it is fully digital. It's digitizing what the wall, and then it's kind of like, and then it's going into a computer. It never exists. That image never exists in the real life. But the act of like going outside and doing that is anti the idea of a screen of the sort of being just kind of locked on your screen. And so that's what I like is that the digital things enable us to do things in real life. If you're making an animation, you can make it really quickly with the iPad, but you're drawing it with a Sharpie on 3 bits of A4 paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in terms of audiences, I feel the same way. It's like with Leaf Number Three, there was we went back into the libraries that we'd worked in, and then that people were looking at on the headset, but it was accompanied by an exhibition of all the leaves that had been drawn by people, and also participants could then do a zine themselves and make their own leaf that was part of that. So there's a kind of there's something quite depressing about putting something on YouTube and then like it just sort of sits on YouTube.
Yeah.
And even when we've got like we laugh about this, we have some GIFs that we made, we put on Giphy that have got like 23 million like views. So it's like masses of views, but it doesn't make any difference. It's made absolutely no difference to my life whatsoever. I don't have any connection to that at all. Whereas, sort of 10 people come and do a workshop, that stays with me forever. So there's this sort of weird thing about numbers, which when I was a bit more into the numbers, and now I'm just relaxed about the numbers, and I'd just rather be just, with people in real life.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? So I think 23 million is
It's an astronomical number, but I mean, what does it? It's a little ball that just goes round and round, and it's like it doesn't make any. It doesn't. So it's sort of weird. Like I would have thought, oh yeah, that'll make me feel really great, but it doesn't really make me feel great. We just sort of look at it every now and then, maybe every sort of 3 or 4 months, and there's another whatever 5 million people have watched it, and you're just like, what's that? Doesn't So it's kind of weird. The we have a film that we made about sexual harassment,
yeah.
which was we made the film. It's on YouTube, all the rest of it. But the people that we made it with, it was the Youth Voice and Influence team in Sheffield. They gave it to taxi drivers, taxi companies all around Sheffield. So every taxi driver in Sheffield has watched this film about sexual harassment, and so they're then trained. They've got this knowledge of that. It was also screened at Sheffield United at half time. So that's a load of people. But on YouTube, that would be one view, the Sheffield United at half time. So
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
sort of, it's important to free yourself from the YouTube count.
Yeah. And also there's just like you said, everybody's saying the kind of the unexpected links are important, aren't they? And you kind of knowing, like DK talking about some students watching her work,
Yeah.
it's fantastic, isn't it? You don't know what impact, the
Who
possibility of
it's
having this
reaching and
great
how
impact.
and where and what and it doesn't, it's a funny, it can be, it's not just one channel, but
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So we've sort of spoken a bit about kind of thinking about the platforms and how ways your work gets people and what that might mean, and thinking about people as you're making work. And there's one other question I'll ask. And again, I'm going to I'll go back to DK in the first place to ask this, if that's all right, which is, somebody asked us beforehand, do you think DK, do you think that having a strong understanding of traditional art helps in the creation of digital artworks?
That's such an interesting question. I think when we say, I guess I would want to know a bit more when you say traditional, but I definitely feel like I think
As you
there is
want it to be.
yeah, I think there's something about, in my mind, this is what comes to mind. It feels like when you're playing outside and touching grass for the first time, but you're playing in the mud, you're touching grass, you know what nature truly feels like. Um, and getting in there, I think there's something about really fully being immersed in something in in the real world, so to speak, because I think we've got digital worlds and we've got the real world now as well. So yeah, in a way, I think I do. I think there's something really beautiful about experiencing things in original formats as in the first instance, and then, but you can, life is life. You can start digitally and go back. You can find things in different ways. But yeah.
Thank you. Go on. You've got another thought.
No, I just saw the chat in regards to general art skills. I don't in relation to that, as in having a background and studying something in education first. Um, that wasn't my experience. I've literally been in this industry based on practice, and even stage and the buildings that I've been able to work into has been me makeshifting my ideas with no money and bringing people together. And because I did those low budget, do it by myself, I can't afford to hire this, and that. And I learned so many skills along the way in real life. Those kind of budget productions now that I would say, ugh, yuck, I can't believe I did that. Those are all the things that propelled me to where I am now. And it was directors and buildings who saw those works without no budget that said, we want to invest in you. So I think in relation to that, 100% I feel like you can come in the industry at any way from any position. And community arts also is where I started. And learning as a young person where I wasn't often able to go, oh, maybe I didn't start at drama school from a very, very young age or anything like that. So yeah, I think if you feel it in your heart and you have a strong vision about what you want to create and the things you want to explore, chase it. And if you can afford the education, 100% I would say do it. Because I think if I had a choice, I would have loved to have access to so much more educational knowledge. But actually, I also feel like learning real, and just jumping into the industry and jumping into things has taught me so much. But the education would be great as well, because then you just have the language and a different type of access.
Indeed. Thank you. Thanks, DK. I'm just going to ask Ray quickly to pick up on the same question. Ray, do you think that a strong understanding of sort of traditional art forms helps you in your digital work?
Well, firstly, I'll just echo what DK said in terms of the kind of raw and the real, and kind of expressing your own artistry and story is, the place to start. And I think it's a double-edged sword, really, because somebody coming in without that background might just have a very different way of telling their story. But also, all that, I guess, the broadness on how you can visualize something from experiencing a lot of different art is also, like a formidable thing to have.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much. Pete, we're not going to go into, so we've heard from the other two, but I've got a much more practical question for you. Slightly, just somebody's asking about what kind of scanner are you talking about?
I've got it with me here. Comes in a handy little bag, and it's called iScan, and it works like that. So you press that button there, and then you kind of like like that, and then it's patched. That doesn't always work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It's a bit glitchy, but it's really good fun. I don't know, it's really good fun. I was doing some in Manchester. I was working in Manchester, and then this fella came over and asked me what I was doing, and then he was a musician, and he was like, "Oh, it's like sampling." He said, "Oh, that's like sampling." I sort of thought it's really interesting, kind of, because you've got these little squares of bits of stuff that you then can incorporate in your own work.
Fab. Thank you. Is digital your friend or your foe, Ray?
I think it's a definite friend. I think it's taken a little while, like to get to know the friend.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but it's a definite friend that can really support you in lots of different ways. But I think the important thing is not to let it kind of guide you away from what you want to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pete, you're nodding along there.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a friend. That's a great friend. I've known them a long time now, and but I wouldn't want to hang out with them exclusively. It's also nice to have my friend the pencil and my friend the sketch pad.
And oh, how funny. So I think seeing them as little people now. Thank you. So DK, the same question to you. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I completely agree with Peter and Ray. I love how you express that. But yeah, I think it's so it can be a great friend, and that's what it is, you know. And yeah, I think they said it perfectly.
Lovely. Okay. Is that we've got just a couple of minutes left. Is there anything that any of you feel you would like to say to the audience, or is there a point you haven't had a chance to make? Was there a question I didn't ask? Is there anything anybody else would like to add in before we finish? So there doesn't have to be, but if you're thinking, oh, I'd really love to say, now is the moment.
I think I can feel like all of us are sort of saying, like, it's hard, isn't it? Because we don't really know who we're speaking to. So, but like probably anybody that is doing stuff and making stuff, I think that all of us are sort of saying, make stuff, and that for me, I think something that's really useful is to make short stuff first. Don't start by trying to make something that's 3 hours long. It's best to start with making something that's like 10 seconds long and then do 20 seconds and 30 seconds because you want to finish things. And I think that what digital does actually is that it enables you to do that. You can just do it. You can just start, you know, the tools are there and you can just start and don't worry about it. Just sort of get into it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anything anybody else would like to say?
Yeah, I saw a question
Yeah.
around how we found our communities
Mm.
and I would just say it's kind of like what Peter said. Once you start, I think people will gravitate towards your vision. You'll find some of the right people will start to kind of find you. And it's also a journey. I think don't expect maybe you're going to meet someone and right away it's going to click, and that's okay. So I think once you start, you'll then be able to kind of find different communities who share certain visions with you and also look for other communities that are doing things similar to what you're doing and what you want to do and ask questions, be around, be really proactive about the vision that you have and what you want to do and have courage to take risks and try and meet new people.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Ray, did you want to add anything?
I was just thinking, just how important it is for everybody to get across their story or their move or their feeling inside that wants to come out. So much resources go into something which is quite general and be quite bland, but it's all our original voices or our group voices together that need to get out there. And the means can be really simple and easy to tell them stories.
I'm glad we've finished here because it's made me think back to what Natalie, when I asked Natalie the question in the first place about why artists are important in this digital space, I feel like the three of you have just really well solidified that and explained exactly why. That thing about sort of being true to it, playing, sort of having the courage to try new things is exactly what art is all about and why it's so important. So on that note, thank you ever so much. Thank you for sharing your experiences and your, the ways in which you've used digital to approach your work.